All right, it looks like we're live. So, welcome everybody. I am Kevin, aka Bravo One Rescue from b1r.org. I got Scott the Jedi with me here from Modern Samurai Project, and we may be joined later on by Ben from Hardline Tactical Training. So tonight we're going to talk about Jiu Jitsu and the journey that is, and we might get into some other combative systems and other discussions as well. This is going to be pretty informal, and we'll just kind of have a good talk. So, Scott, why don't you just kind of talk about your beginning into jiu-jitsu and how you got started, where you're at now, where you're going, all that good stuff.
So that's a long story. So again, I'll kind of explain my nickname Jedi. It's not self-proclaimed. So my last name is Scott Jydlinski, and now you guys are all wondering why a dude with slant eyes has a Polish last name. So I'm an Air Force kid. Dad was stationed in Korea during the Vietnam War. Parents met. They had the biggest chink ever. Anyway, so no one knows how to pronounce my last name correctly, so they always forget the L. So Jydlinski became Jedinsky, and everyone since 1977 says, hey, your nickname should be Jedi. And no matter how many times we moved, 2 weeks later, someone would have the first idea to call me Jedi. So that's what it's been. So that's my nickname. Not that I am a Star Wars nerd, but that's not why it's my nickname. So my background. So I guess we'll just talk a little bit about, so we'll go straight into the jiu-jitsu part. So I just turned 45 back in 95. So my dad retired from the Air Force in Vegas. And so I was hanging out, going to school, UNLV, having a good time. And actually missed the first UFC by a couple of years. I think the first UFC was 93, if I'm not mistaken. So, but the first VHSs didn't come out until like 95. And my sister's boyfriend at the time, who was big into boxing, said, Scott, you've got to see this because, so at the time, I had my black belt in Taekwondo, which I got when I was like 16 or something like that, but had always, dabbled in boxing, had a lot of other Asian friends, so dabbled in some of the Filipino martial arts, a lot of Muay Thai, again, aging myself. It was the time of, brutal Aikido with Steven Seagal, which, by the way, is jiu-jitsu. Anyway, so dabbled in all that stuff, and then we first saw the first one. And I remember looking in Black Belt magazine a while ago, or in the past, and seeing the little ad by the Gracie family saying, "Hey, there was like $100,000 reward if you can come to our school and beat us. If you can't, then your reward is like broken legs and broken bones." And I remember looking at that, and the first time I saw that ad, going, "Who are these guys? How rude! That's not the Budo way." You know what I mean? And so when I saw it, I was like, oh, I kind of know who these guys are. And then Hoist came on the scene and just obliterated everyone, and a light switch just went off, right? So at the time, I used to play a lot of pickup basketball. Vegas, because of UNLV, is a huge basketball town. And for those people that play pickup basketball, you get into fights. It's just the bottom line, you get into fights. So, I wrestled a year in high school. I had my martial arts experience, but every time I got into an altercation, it was the same thing. A couple swings, I take the guy down, slap him a couple times, people go, okay, that's enough. They break it up. But you would just get, it was rough. I mean, I would win. I can't remember a time I lost, but I would win. But at the end, I was wrecked, because it took so much effort. So with that experience in the back of my hand and seeing what Hoist was able to do, other than little, spacing kicks that he threw, he came out through the first couple pretty much unscathed, and it had just clicked. I'm like, oh, I wouldn't have to be afraid to throw my high kicks that I was really good at the time, because if someone took me to the ground, it would be okay. So to make a long story longer, right down the street, literally 4 blocks away, John Lewis opened up a jiu-jitsu school. And for those of you that don't know who John Lewis is, just Google it. He was one of the first American black belts. He also has his other black belt is under Judo Jean LaBelle. And for those of you who don't know who Judo Jean LaBelle is, look him up. You'll go, oh, I've seen that dude in old stuntman stuff. He's also one of Ronda Rousey's mentors. The old guy you see her hugging after every fight with the red hair, that's Judo Jean LaBelle, who is, for the record, the grandfather of MMA, not Bruce Lee. We'll get into that later on. Okay. Anyway, and as an Asian, I can say that. Anyway, so he had, black belts from him. He was a brown belt. I believe he was a brown belt, I'm going to say under Rickson Gracie, which for those of you who know about jiu-jitsu, you all know who Rickson Gracie is. So John opened up his school in Vegas. I came there, and I think I trained there for like a year and a half maybe. And then I moved to California. But during that time, John had his first fight. He was now affiliated with Andre Pedernera's and Novo Now. Those people who don't know who Andre Pedernera's is, he is Jose Aldo's coach, mentor, manager. Okay. So they set up a fight. He is, John's other biggest thing is that he is the first person to, on recorded TV or broadcast, he's the first person to ever take a Gracie in an MMA fight to a draw. He fought Carlos Gracie Jr. in extreme combat or something like that for 30 minutes to a draw. That was back in the day where they didn't have judges. It was win, lose, or draw, right? And he took him. Right after that, Andre gave him his black belt, and they're still affiliated to this day. So I left so I trained in 96 and a half, got promoted. Well, not getting pro. I got my third stripe on my white belt at the beginning of 97. Got promoted to branch manager where I was working, and that took over my life. And then I moved to California. And basically that's when the mortgage industry, I'm a VP for a mortgage company. That's when it took off. I ballooned up to 310 pounds, became a super fat ass, and eating and drinking became my sport. So after what I like to call the great humbling of 2008, when the mortgage industry just crashed and, I became unemployed and yada, yada. I looked around. I had an awesome wife who got a great job after I got laid off. I said, I need to get off my butt. Lost about 60 pounds. Went back to jiu-jitsu in August 1 of 2009 with Tony Passos in Sterling, Virginia, who is he's a world-class coach. We are under the Atos umbrella with Andre Galvao. And if you guys Google Tony, his main claim to fame is that he is the loudest guy on Team Atos. So Andre Galvao, who just won the last super fight at the ADCC, you'll hear a guy yelling at the top of his voice at Andre. That's Tony. So I've been with Tony. I mean, he didn't really do stripes back then. It's from white belt. And sometime last year, he gave me my third stripe on my purple belt. So that's my jiu-jitsu story.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I'll talk a little bit about, I guess, how I came into this. So you and I were on a show together with Nick Humphreys from Practically Tactical, who great show. And it was kind of after the show, we were just kind of having a discussion and talking about various combative systems. And you talked about jiu-jitsu. And I think it was a few days later after that, I sent you a message and just kind of asked you, hey, is there a jiu-jitsu school in Oklahoma that I can go to? And you said there's only one place to train, and that is over at Lovato Juniors, Rafael Lovato.
Yep.
So I looked them up. They did a 30-day free trial thing, and I'll kind of I guess I'll put this into a little bit of perspective here. So I come from a military and law enforcement background. Been doing that for 13 years. I've been through. I grew up doing judo. I also did some kendo growing up. Uh, I've done MACP 1 and 2. I've done Air Force combative systems. I've done law enforcement combative systems. I've went through Krav as a student. I went through Krav as an instructor. So I have a bit of a background uh, in martial arts and combative
Mhm.
systems.
Yep.
And walking into the school, I felt pretty confident. I'm not going to lie. My first class, just the warm up, they had us, running around a little bit, and they said, "Okay, so go to this end of the school and shrimp to the other end." And I was like, "All right, I got that. I can shrimp." And the next thing was rolls,
Yep.
and I was like, "Okay, I got that too." I remember that from judo. Um, and then they did drop steps from one end to the other. And I wasn't familiar with drop steps, but when I watched the other guys do it, I was like, "Oh, okay. I mean, I can do that. That's easy." So I did that, and then we started getting into the technique of the day, and it was almost a complete 180. All the confidence that I had walking in almost immediately left because, and I can't remember what we were doing. It was a simple like inverted roll leg takedown type deal.
Hmm.
Um, and my first class wasn't the beginner white belt class. It was an open ranks class. And the guy that was there was super inviting. He was more than happy to introduce me to Jiu Jitsu um, in that class and everything. But I mean, even having that background of martial arts and combative systems, I felt like a complete fish out of water.
Hmm.
And so here I am now. Um, we've been doing it for about a month, and things are. I'd like to say things are clicking, but things are becoming more familiar. I'm starting to look at the techniques that we're doing, and it's kind of nice because I'm like, okay, well, if I do, this one technique that feeds into three or four others, and I'm starting to realize that. I'm like, all right, great, and I'm getting ready to test for my first stripe in my white belt, which you and I were talking before the show. That's not a very normal thing. Uh, in fact, yeah,
Auto school. So anyway,
yeah, yeah.
but you have that background, so it makes sense.
Right, right. And for anybody that doesn't know the belt system of jiu-jitsu, it's white, blue, purple, brown, black, and between like white, blue, brown, or white, blue, purple, brown, there's four stripes for everyone. Then in black, there's it's like seven stripes before you get like the red and black belt, right? The
Yeah,
coral
but it's
belt.
based on it's based on time. For example, on the lower belts, it's based on skill set, things of that nature. Where with black, you could win every world championship there is in every weight class, blah blah blah, but you don't get your first stripe until 2 years. And then I think you don't get your fourth stripe or the second stripe until 4 years. Well, so it's a time thing after that. With black
Yeah,
belts.
yeah. I was reading something where I think it was like, I think it was off of one of the Gracie websites or articles where, um, oh, here we go. Mr. Ben Harris has joined us.
All right, cool.
Hopefully.
Oh, there
You
you
guys
are,
hear me
man.
all right?
Awesome. How you doing, Ben?
I'm here. Can you hear
Nice.
me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Can't see you though,
Yeah.
Oh, well, interesting.
because you're a ninja.
I am. I am a master of the dark arts.
There it is.
Apparently the very dark screen arts.
Yeah.
No.
Well, I'll let you try and figure it out.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Ben, we actually just started. We're just kind of talking about our backgrounds and a little bit of the belt system, whatnot of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, but to finish off what you were saying there, Kev, it's important to know that unlike some other arts, I always say, people say, well, how long does it take to get to black belt? And I usually say if you train 3 to 4 nights a week, it could take anywhere from 6 to 10 years.
Yeah.
And then people freak out. It's like, I can get a Taekwondo belt in 2 years and a $2,000 fee. That's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. That Gracie article I was talking about, I think they said if you get your black belt in jiu-jitsu at 18 years old, you will not get your coral belt or your red belt, which is like the top, until you're like 64 or 67, something like that.
Yeah, I think there's only like 7 or 10 red belts out there. And
Yeah.
they're all super, super old, but that's belts. Belts aren't the goal.
Exactly. And that's something that, going back to where I'm getting ready to test for my first stripe, I told my coach, I was like, I mean, if you think I'm ready, I'm fine with that. But the bottom line is, I'm kind of in it for the long haul because I've heard about and read about the blue belt dropout, which we'll get into here in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But it really seems that folks they put in their heart and soul into training for about a year, maybe a year and a half, 2 years, whatever. Get that blue belt, and then they just kind of seem to fade away. And I definitely don't want to be one of those statistics.
Right. Yeah. Sure. Yep. And we'll get into that as soon as you want to. I got my thoughts on that. So.
Excellent. So Ben, why don't you introduce yourself? Kind of talk about your jiu-jitsu background, and then we'll continue on.
Okay. My name is Benjamin Harris. I run a small training company here in Northeast Ohio called Hardline Tactical Training. That's why you can't see me. I'm keeping my OPFOR going here. So I can't figure out what's going on with the camera, guys. So I don't know. Just didn't have to be in the dark today, I guess. My background in jiu-jitsu is fairly minimal, regaled to what you learn in a mixed martial arts gym. But I think that it applies more to the self-defense world than I would say that the gi kind of jiu-jitsu does. I mean, there's a lot of things that transfer over between the two. I have done some minimal gi training, but most of what I've done is MMA style jiu-jitsu and judo and things like that. So no belts, no nothing. There's a couple schools around here that do it, but I haven't pursued that as of yet. But that's about it.
Okay.
Pretty limited, so.
Now, how do you feel the jiu-jitsu you've learned in MMA style kind of compares to, I guess, the more traditional or sport style jiu-jitsu?
Well, I mean, you've got the difference between having a gi and not having a gi. There's a lot of the neck holds and things like that, and the gi throws that you can't do in MMA style. Or I mean, you could probably do it in like a self-defense scenario with a shirt or a jacket or something like that. I mean, it's good to know the gi stuff as well. As I did do some gi work with our jiu-jitsu instructor, as far as rolling and doing some of the holds and the throws and things like that. But I think they both are equally important.
I would agree with that.
So then you haven't in your training, you haven't done the traditional belt system then. It's been more all-encompassing, yeah?
Yeah. No, I never. It was nothing as like a formal jiu-jitsu school or anything like that. It was just the guy that I forget what Gracie school he went to, but he had actually gone down to Brazil and trained with them and had his black belt. and he was a pretty bad dude. he he did things to me that I didn't think a human body could do. So it was fun.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. It is, like you said, a different venue from the sport aspects of jiu-jitsu. You know, where you're being competitive with the gi and everything like that. And you're not really so much to say out to hurt the other guy as you would be in MMA. That's why I think that, you know, if you're talking about it from an aspect of translating into real world use, that it's good to have some of that non-gi stuff too, because if you do use it in a real world scenario, you are going to be out there to hurt the guy, and he might not have a shirt on or something like that for you to use your gi techniques with. You know, I mean, how many times have we seen the guy takes his shirt off before he goes into a fight? It's,
yeah,
you know, so then your collar holds are not effective against that guy.
yeah, or even just in that scrap, maybe they're just wearing a t-shirt and it rips off.
Yeah, a t-shirt's not going to afford you the thickness that you need for some of those techniques. So,
yeah. I dabbled in a little bit of MMA about the same time I was going through MACP, and I'd come out of a law enforcement combatives program as well. So I was thinking I was pretty good. And the guy that I ended up sparring with just time and time again. I mean, the first time that he and I sparred, you actually nailed it right there. Is I was very used to judo and a thicker shirt where, like in the military, you have a much thicker shirt where you can actually grab hold and the thing's not going to rip. Well, he and I went toe to toe wearing rash guards, and it was crazy for me. And I'm sitting there just looking, going, I don't know what to grab. I don't know what to do here. And before I knew it, he'd actually take me down on a single leg sweep, and then had me in a triangle choke very quickly.
Yeah. Then, and like you said, you had no idea what to do because you didn't have that gi to grab a hold of, you know.
Yeah.
And
So,
you know,
can I give my opinion on that?
Yeah,
sure,
yeah.
So here's the deal. A lot of people but they have the opinion that no-gi jiu-jitsu is one thing, and then gi jiu-jitsu is another thing, or combative, self-defense jiu-jitsu is one thing, and sport jiu-jitsu is another thing, right? It's all the same, guys, right? For every instance you can say that a gi is a crush. For example, if all I do is gi jiu-jitsu and I try and do a cross-collar choke, right? And then all of a sudden the guy's not wearing a gi. Oh my God, what do I do? Well, dumbass, you practice more chokes. Okay? On the other hand, how many times have you guys been into a fight or saw someone get in a fight and they do the hockey shirt pullover?
Yeah.
If you train no-gi and you get a rash guard, or you like ringworm and you train without a shirt, you don't know how to deal with that either, right? So all I'm going to say is it's all the same branches on the same tree. And where you limit yourself is if you say, I'm this or I'm that. It's like, bro, you need to train it all. It's just like we talk about our, firearms training. I only train in the pistol, or I only train in the rifle, or I only do this. I only, no, dude, you got to train all the ranges. I enjoy gi more than I enjoy no gi, right? That's just me, okay? My reasons are that I don't like ringworm. Number one.
But it's great for weight loss.
Yeah, right. Exactly, because you can't train, you can't do anything. I don't like that. On the other hand, I love going fast. I don't care if I'm shooting guns or if I'm grappling. I like going fast, and you can go fast. The other part about the gi is that my analogy or metaphor with the gi is it's like sprinting with a weighted vest. When you get done sprinting with the weighted vest and you sprint without it, you are that much faster, right? On the other hand, you guys are right. People out there, doing spider guard, doing arm, or I was going to say arm drags, but it's easy to adjust that. Doing anything where your sweeps and your submissions are completely reliant upon the gi, and you don't train no gi, you're right. When you get into a confrontation at the beach and all the dude's got on is surfer shorts, you could have a serious issue. But it's all the same, even with the positions, right? My professor Tony has a great saying. It's like, well, I want to learn from the guard. I want to learn the armbar, and then I want to learn the triangle, and then I want to learn the omoplata. Well, when you get to a certain level, you realize that the armbar is the omoplata, is the triangle, is the armbar, is the omoplata, is the triangle, and things just flow, right? So getting back to what we were talking about, gi and no gi are no different. It's just a different application. It's like saying shooting a rifle from standing is completely different from shooting it at a knee. Well, yeah, it's no, it's really not. It's just a different position. It's a different angle to the same thing, right? So anyway,
that's great, and that actually kind of brings us into. I was going to talk about it a little bit later, but we can talk about it now. The difference of mentality, I guess, in Jiu-Jitsu, where it was designed as a self-defense program, and something I've heard more and more as I've been kind of diving into this world for the last month is that it starts out in your basic self-defense stuff. I think the Gracie School does a lot of that for their first stripe, and maybe even for the entire first belt. I know my school is. I would assume most schools do this for the first part of their curriculum, but then it morphs into a sport aspect. So what are your thoughts on, I guess, the differences between that and the application of jiu-jitsu in self-defense situations?
Yeah. Ben, you want to go first? Did Ben leave?
Yeah, he got
I
guess
pissed
he
him
lagged
off.
out or something.
I pissed him off. He's like, no gi rules. Just kidding. Yeah. So, all right. So again, for the people that are watching this in podcast and aren't into firearms training like Kevin and I are, you're going to get a lot of analogies and metaphors and crossovers. So we apologize for that, but really don't care. Anyway, just like in firearms training, where you have the gamers versus the tactical guys, right? The war in jiu-jitsu is as long as its history of sport jiu-jitsu versus self-defense jiu-jitsu. And again, my disclaimer is, in the world of jiu-jitsu, I am nobody from nobody. You know what I mean? But I research a lot of things, and I have my opinion, and I think I state them fairly well. So self-defense, okay? Depending on what side of the Gracie family you come from, self-defense in jiu-jitsu has a certain importance versus not. It's an important thing no matter what school you go to and what lineage it's from. The bottom line is, and I mean no offense to this from anybody, but self-defense after 6 months gets really boring. You know what I mean? You've got your headlock escapes, you've got your throws, you've got this, your knife defense, stuff like that, all which is completely legitimate, but man, that stuff gets boring, right? And half the time you are practicing it, you have a less than resistant opponent, right? Whereas when you get into sport rolling, but it's probably not a good term for it, but when you start to roll, and for those people that don't know about jiu-jitsu, in order to preserve space and safety, most rolling starts from the knees, right? Because if it started from the feet, you'd be all over the place, and only 2 people or 3 people could train, or 4 people could train at a time. So it starts from the knees, and you go from there because it's about the ground. So just like in the tactical world or the shooting world, people go, oh, if you go out and you compete and you do reloads in a doorway, you're an idiot, and that'll get you killed in the streets. Jiu-Jitsu has the same thing where people go, oh, Jiu-Jitsu, you're going to pull guard in a street fight. Well, no, you're not. You're not going to pull guard. Because if you do, you're an idiot, right? The whole thing about it is, as a big guy, I'm 6'3", 250 pounds, right? I'm supposed to be on top in a fight. And the problem is with that is that most guys have an ego of like, oh, I'm big, or I'll just do this and I'll wind up on top. Well, what if you wind up on bottom? You want to see the most pathetic thing in the world? Have a big dude on his back not knowing what to do and he can't breathe. It's like, a beached whale. It's horrific, and a person has to look into their ego and start training that stuff, right? So, nobody's doing flying triangles or jumping guard or anything like that just because they train to do it in sport. The final thing I'll say about that is, does sport get kind of creative and artistic? Well, absolutely it does, because you're rolling against other dudes who know jiu-jitsu. And you have to get creative to get that edge, So inverted guards, inverted guard gets a lot of pain, jumping guard, all that other stuff. Well, you got to do it because the other guy knows just as much as you do, so you have to be creative. So sometimes sport jiu-jitsu looks a little silly, but the bottom line is that your average untrained person in unarmed combat versus a 1-year blue belt will get destroyed, right? You'll come in, you'll throw a couple punches, he'll grab your center of gravity, take you to the ground, and pound you in the face. That's the bottom line. So if it's so easy, why not get into other angles, of the art that you can only do with other people who know jiu-jitsu. The thing about jiu-jitsu is that it's so multi-dimensional, right? Like you have striking and kicks, which again, I love Muay Thai, I love boxing, stuff like that. But it's for the most part, there's only so many combinations you can do in a space that you can do it, right? In a dimension. Jiu-jitsu is, you can't even say it's 360 degrees because this technique from this position is this way. This technique from this position is this way. You can be on the guy's back. You can be on the front. You can do sideways. You can do the same choke from 30 different angles, and they all have their own little nuances. And it makes it, there's so many different dimensions, and it's absolutely limitless. Absolutely limitless, and that's what makes jiu-jitsu so awesome.
Sorry, I'm sitting there kind of playing with
Yeah, I saw your lower third there now. Looks good.
Yeah, I'm trying to get it to where your video actually comes into the main box because it's not it's not doing that, and I have no idea how to do that.
We'll figure it out. Just like jiu-jitsu, we'll figure it out.
Yeah. Looks like Ben's coming back. So let's talk about the blue belt drop off. So folks, they train hard, they hit the blue belt, and they seem to, there just seems to be this massive dive. People just, I don't know if it's a lack of heart or if it's they've learned everything they wanted to learn or what. But what are your thoughts on that?
Ben, you there? Why don't you take this one first? Because so you didn't train at a formal school. You did a lot of no-gi, so they didn't do belts, right?
No.
So it'd be interesting. What's your theory on the blue belt drop-off? And then I'll add mine.
From what people I've talked to have gone through a belt program, a full gi program, it's hard.
Yeah.
I mean, it gets to the point where, as far as I know, it becomes life-consuming. because you're going to have to constantly be in the gym training, constantly be rolling with people, constantly sparring to be able to advance to those higher levels to where your techniques are crisp and they're automatic. I mean, that applies at any level really, but it doesn't get easier as you go higher.
No, it doesn't. It gets harder.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty much it. The only nuance that I will add is like, look, guys, there's great schools, there's hard schools, and then there's easy schools. There are schools out there that once you log your 50th class, it doesn't matter if you suck or not. You're going to get your blue belt, right?
Yeah.
There are other schools where there is no set path. You're rolling, and the instructor throws the belt at you, right? My school was kind of the latter, you know, and it is easy for me to say that, I mean, I got my blue belt in a year and 3 months. But that was training 3 times a week, attending every seminar, and privates 2 to 3 times a month, because it was just it was a thing. You know, I had Ben, you weren't there, but you know, I had lost my job a year or so previous, so this was like, I must prove that I am worthy to have my man card type thing. You know what I mean? And it took a lot of work, but I wasn't going to stop from there. So what happens with the blue belt is, and believe it or not, this happens a lot, they go to a school that's not that tough, okay? They go out, they get their blue belt, they roll with someone else that went to a real school, and they get wrecked, right? But they go to another school that's better, now they're a blue belt, and now it's really embarrassing, right? So that's part of it. The other part of it is the part that I kind of respect the most is if you, I've always said that in any other martial art, your blue belt in Jiu Jitsu, if it's legitimate, equals a black belt in any other art. You know, I'll say that about Taekwondo, I'll say that about, you know, Kung Fu. It's just the truth. So if that's what you want to do, and you want to be a proficient self-defense individual, no hand, you know, unarmed combat, and you just want to protect yourself, and you feel that you are legitimate, that you can probably protect yourself against 99% of the people in the world in unarmed combat, the blue belt will do it for you. Go live your life. It's awesome, right? And then the final part is what Ben was saying. Dude, it's hard. It's hard. I mean, up until the point where I got my knee replacement in 2013, I was training 3 to 4 times a week consistently, you know, and that was for 5 years. I took a 3-month break, 2-month break because of my knee replacement, and then went right back to training 2 to 3 times a week, you know. And if it wasn't for my new job, my new promotion, and me traveling all the time, I'd be training 3 times a week too. Right? But not everybody's built like that. I don't have kids. You know, I've got an awesome wife and 2 Yorkies. I got lots of freedom to do. So that's a lot of the reason for the blue belt drop off. You know, so.
Did your surgery on your knee, did that have to do with jiu-jitsu, or was that separate?
Not at all. Nope. So I talked before about, you know, one of the ways that I knew jiu-jitsu work is when I was, before I used to play pickup basketball a lot. My knees are 100% from 2 things. Playing basketball, getting heavy, still playing basketball, and then I stopped playing basketball, and I still got even heavier. 100%. So jiu-jitsu actually gave me probably another 4 years on my left knee. Like I said, when I went back, you know, I got up to 310, got down to 265-ish, right? And that was in 2009. And I didn't have my surgery until 2013. So all the weight loss, all the therapy, from, Jiu Jitsu, which is basically violent yoga, gave me a lot more time. But once you start that meniscus slide, it doesn't stop. Doesn't matter what you're doing, So yeah, and then really, honestly, the only reason why I got my knee replaced is because I couldn't do Jiu Jitsu. Yep.
So, and that's something that I think folks might they might have a misconception about is, if they, as an outsider, if they watch, jiu-jitsu can be violent. I mean, they see guys getting thrown, they see guys, getting, like, I don't know, in just passing the guard, you're violently moving somebody and shaking them and, attempting to get them into various locks, from different positions, and they're seeing people, get choked out, and they're seeing people get put into, contorted into different positions. So it's almost natural to think, hey, that a lot of guys probably get hurt here, and from what I've seen, exactly what you were just talking about, it couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, if anything else, because of the way people contort themselves and they have to move and everything, it's a violent yoga. That's a great way to put it.
Yep. Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, the great thing about jiu-jitsu is it's what you can make it. If you want to be some spazzy white belt that wants to conquer the world with your athleticism and stuff like that, you're gonna get hurt. If you're that wrestler that dominated in whatever level that and all you're gonna do is smash people, you're gonna get hurt, right? But if you're the guy that wants to come in and learn the art, not saying you have to get smashed, but you learn the art and things like that, you can progress. I want to say, was it the last competition I was in? I can't remember. I competed like on my 42nd birthday, on my birthday, right? And I had 3 matches, and even though I was in the Masters division, the oldest guy that I beat was like 32, and at the time I was 42 or 43. You know what I mean? You saw pictures of or videos of Elio Gracie rolling until he was like 95. Carlos Gracie, Carlson Gracie, all the other guys, that have been around forever and a day. How many Muay Thai championships you see kicking banana trees?
Yeah.
How many old boxing champions you see getting in the ring and sparring with, like they used to? I don't. Even judo guys. No respect to the judo guys. Love the art, but I mean it's rough. It's a rough sport. You don't see old judo guys going at it. I think the oldest guy at Tony's school, is Brian the oldest guy? I think Brian's pushing 60. This dude's a beast, right? Because it truly is the art where the techniques of leverage and technique and skill truly, truly pay off.
Yeah.
In my limited experience with it, what we did in the gym is the guys would get hurt a lot when they tried to do something that they weren't familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
That's when they would get, they'd be like, okay, well, we did this 3 times, so now I'm an expert at it. And we'd go into doing something, and guys wouldn't do a proper break fall or something like that on a takedown, and bad things would happen. Shoulders would get jammed up, ribs would get broken and bruised.
Right.
That kind of thing happened. I actually got the nickname the Breaker in my gym because I was very good at jiu-jitsu, what limited I had of it, and guys wouldn't fall correctly when I would take them down. And I'm not a small guy. When I was training, I was down to about 200 pounds, but that's still big for the guys I was training with.
Sure.
And it was usually the wrestlers that got hurt because they weren't prepared to be on their back. that scared them to no end.
Yeah, and they go ape shit. They go ape shit spazzy.
Yeah, exactly. So when you go take them down, instead of doing a backwards break fall, they would try to twist and contort, and that's what had actually one guy. I either bruised badly or broke one of his ribs. I took him down and he turned sideways, and all 200 and some pounds of me came right down on his side.
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
And
So
I
that's the thing about no-gi, right? And again, no disrespect to no-gi. I love rolling no-gi as long as the guys I'm rolling with know what they're doing, right? So you got like 3 factors with no-gi, right? Number one, most of the guys with no-gi want to do MMA, okay?
Right.
And right, wrong, or indifferent, for some reason, MMA is like, oh, dude, you got to get a perfect record or you're washed up. You know, that one loss, dude, you're done. Go flip burgers, you know? And that translates into training, okay? And I love the mindset, right? I love the no-quit attitude, but it's training. You got to learn what you're doing, you know? And they go buck wild and don't have any technique and try and get out, and they wind up twisting a rib. That's number one.
Right.
Number two, those people that don't know much, it's very hard to spaz out in the gi because there's so much friction, right? So it actually saves people from hurting themselves. What's the third one? I think leg locks. Because no gi can be so slippery, the biggest appendage you can grab is a leg, right? And leg locks can either be the easiest submission, but they also can be the most dangerous. So you'll have some dumbass out there going, let me try a heel hook, and just pop a dude's knee and not even know what happened. Or worse, the problem with leg locks is, not the problem, but you know, one of the things about leg locks is when you go for a leg lock, you expose your legs too, right? I've actually seen 2 guys go for heel hooks at the same time and pop both knees on each other. You know, so that's part of the problem when you guys are rolling no gi that don't have experience with the gi. You know.
Oh, absolutely. I actually had, it wasn't my knee, but I was rolling with another guy, and we somehow ended up in that mutual leg lock position, and he was able to get an ankle lock, and he cranked it deep, and everybody in the gym stopped because he thought he shattered my ankle.
Yeah.
And it sounded like somebody rolled over a roll of bubble wrap with a car.
Yeah.
And luckily nothing happened. It just
scar tissue.
Air release.
He popped some scar tissue or something. Yeah.
It hurt really bad. And then I was like, wow, okay, we don't train this enough. You know, like I said, the exposure we had was just enough to kind of get you the basics of it. And like I said, a lot of guys were getting hurt on the ground. I saw a guy pop his knee. He had knee issues, but they were, I don't remember what they were doing exactly, but he ended up tearing his meniscus in his knee while rolling. You know, shoulders, elbows, you know, things like that happen. So that I really see the benefit in the gi section side of it, because from what I've seen and heard people talk about, the progression is very, very slow. You learn this, and you learn this, and you learn it really slowly, and then you learn it a little bit faster, and then a little bit faster, and a little bit faster, until you get to that point where you're not going to hurt people by doing bad technique.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Agreed.
So,
And you can't cheat. You can't cheat in the gi. Again, I don't want to make it sound like the gi is the all end all. I mean, you know, but
oh no, it's hard. What I did of it definitely is a lot harder than doing non-gi jiu-jitsu.
Well, yeah. So let's go over a little technique, right? So the main, even though I hate talking about escapes, you know, the number one escapes is don't get there in the first place, dumbass. So you know, you're in arm bar position from the bottom, right? The dude, you know, got you like this. You're trying to wrap up, right? He's got his arms interlaced. His leg is over your head and over your chest, and you're desperately trying to hang on, right? So the escape for that is come hell or high water, you need to get the trapped arm elbow to the ground, right? Because if it goes below his pelvic region or his center of gravity, there is no way that he can armbar you because he doesn't have, the point of reference for the he doesn't have the leverage. Okay.
Right.
In the gi, you've got his gi, you've got his gi sleeves, you've got your gi sleeves, yada yada. So you learn a couple of things. Don't get there in the first place, dumbass. Or you probably learn to bridge up a little bit, shrimp out, and slowly get that elbow to the ground at least, right? And then you leg under, you get to your knees, you pull out. It's nice, it's slow. If you escaped, you did it properly. With no gi, there's so much sweat, and it's so slippery, and everybody's grease lightning that it's very easy to fool yourself on doing a proper escape.
It's
on the other hand, if you're rolling no gi and you're the guy doing the arm bar and you get the guy in your foot, you're the shit. Because you basically, you just arm barred, grease lightning. So
yeah. It's actually funny you bring that specific one up because we trained that instead of slow, like you were just saying, we trained it explosive. The minute he gets that leg over and you start to fight with that, you're going to hip out and like just yank your arm as much as you can to slide it down to that floor and get out and take advantage of that freeness. That there isn't any gi or anything like that there. So that's interesting correlation.
Put it into MMA perspective, okay? Put it in MMA perspective. So you're in that position, you're on the bottom, right? You still need to get the elbow down, right? You may just do it explosively and stuff like that. Which way is your face going when you explode like that?
In towards the guy.
Right. Where is his elbow when that happens?
His elbow or yours?
His elbow. Right, you're escaping. You're here.
Right.
You explode in. Right. His elbow is where?
Right there.
Right there.
Yeah.
Right there.
Right.
Or if he's fast enough, he takes your back. So.
Right. That's one of the reasons I don't advocate arm bars in self-defense situations because they're silly when it comes to that perspective.
Well, it depends on your level. I've seen arm bars work in fights. Yeah. You know what I mean? I have. But the guy was so far better, than the guy he was fighting, that he was actually being nice. The guy wouldn't stop spazzing out. He had him in mount, right? He says, "Dude, I'm going to let you up." He was like, "When I get up, I'm going to do this, blah 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 blah." Did the S mount crush? The guy still wouldn't relax. Broke his arm, and the dude just freaked out and ran away. But it depends on your skill level. In a self-defense situation, I'm going for the choke. I'm going for the control. I'm going for the choke. Arm drags to rear naked, arm drags to takedowns. I love arm drags.
They're fun. Yeah, well, I was going to say the caveat to that in a self-defense situation is if you're going to do something like that in a self-defense situation, you better break the arm.
Oh, 100%. I had a discussion the other day. Actually, it was last night. And so I am a admin, mod, whatever they call them on Facebooky, for novice and secondary. You guys are familiar with that group, right?
Yeah.
We have our own little side thing, right? And, their guys are asking me about Jiu Jitsu and stuff like that. And they're like, well, I'm wondering if I should get, because I don't want to hurt anybody in class, is that going to lap over into a fight, or I won't do an arm bar as aggressively as I should because I don't do it in a thing. I'm like, dude, when you roll, you get to that arm bar. You just stop here. Because when it comes to a fight, the difference between breaking an arm is here to here. If you get in a fight, it's nap or tap, or it's nap or snap. You know what I mean? You're putting him to sleep, or you're breaking a joint. It's the bottom line. Yep. And if you can't deal with that, you need to find another way to protect yourself, I guess.
Agreed.
So that's something that I've been having a concern with in training, and that is, so when I was going through Krav instructor, my training partner at the time, we were doing knees, multiple knee strikes into the thoracic cavity area,
Mhm.
and he moved the pad. He adjusted the pad in some way or another. Basically, moved it just enough that my knee actually impacted him, and it wasn't just one; it was 3 or 4.
Mhm.
But it completely knocked the air out of him. He had a bit of a head cold. It cleared his sinuses. He just had all sorts of just gunk just pouring from his face. And I felt absolutely horrible. Uh, I almost didn't want to train for the rest of the day because I knew the guy. He was a friend, and I had heard him. So I've noticed that there's this caution, this tentativeness, if that's a word, um, while I'm in class, that as I'm going through an armbar, as I'm going through like an X choke, as I'm going through a head and arm choke, um, I'm very reluctant to be explosive, um, to really force the move or anything. It's a very very gradual application, and in just playing past the guard, I've noticed that I kind of have to do away with that because I'm losing a lot, and as a white belt, I could completely expect to lose.
Mhm.
Uh, I just want to make it a little bit harder for the guys I'm playing with, uh, but there's still that tentativeness of I don't want to hurt anybody, and it's just I don't know. It's a mental thing that I have to get over. So I don't know. It's kind of interesting. It's one of those things I didn't expect to have, but as I've discovered it, I'm like, okay, I get that, and it might just be a familiarity thing. As I become more familiar with some of the movements and positions, and as I apply these things in various positions, I'll know how to explode to a certain extent, so that way, I'll trap an arm and it'll be, right about there where it's not fully extended, but it's right there, and then that's where I go from 100 down to like 40, and then just start very slowly extending it out until the guy taps. Uh,
Yeah. You want to go first, Matt, before I go? I got a lot of stuff for you. All right, so I'll go. Anyway, yeah. Uh, where do I start? Let's see. Um, So I'll start at the end, okay? When you are doing an armbar on someone, right, and you are exploding to the position, and you are getting to the position where it is 90% complete, and then you slow down, right? That is applicable for a white belt, right? But let me offer you this. Why do you're on top of the dude. Why do you want to explode to anything? If you have your weight and leverage on top of him, right, the worst place he can be is you transitioning slowly into the armbar while your weight is crushing him. The armbar part, dude, that's easy, right? You want the guy going, oh my God, please tap me, because you are so effing heavy on my chest right now that I can't stand it. Okay. The second part is that when you're doing the armbar, are you laying back?
uh, I was, and I've noticed I had guys starting to run out on me, so then I started, instead of laying straight back, I'm coming back at more of an angle so that I can trap that closest leg.
So ask your instructors there, right? So you obviously have Lovato, you have Justin Rader, who's just a freaking maniac there, right?
Yeah.
So here's you, right? So here's your torso, here's your legs, right? And the dude's underneath your legs for the most part, right? You're tapping the guy when you're about here, right? Ask them how you can tap the guy with an armbar when you're here. Okay? You know what the answer is? Squeeze your knees together.
That's a weakness I have.
It's a weakness everybody has. Everybody thinks the position is here and extending the arm out. Nope.
No.
So one of the things you want to do is Google S-mount armbar. Okay? The S-mount will get you in there to where you are. It doesn't matter if you weigh 100 pounds. If you get the position correctly, you will crush the guy regardless of how big he is. And then he is, it's not about the submission, it's about the position, right? So if you're crushing him while you're sitting on his chest, right, he's going to give up. He'll buck once, buck twice, buck 3 times when he can't go anywhere. You'll hear a, ugh, and then he's done. And then you gingerly throw your top leg over his head, sit down on your butt, squeeze your knees, and take one finger and pull his wrist back until he taps. That is the beauty of Jiu Jitsu, man.
Yeah.
It is. You know.
Professor Rader has a great saying, and if he ever watches this and I'm not supposed to say it, then I guess he can choke me out. But he says, earn the position for the submission.
Right.
And and that's exactly what you're saying too, and I love it.
Yep. I mean, nothing is better than tapping somebody from pressure. You want a great feeling? Yes, I choked you. Yes, I armbarred you. Yes, I did this. Yes, I did that. I made you tap from knee on belly. I made you tap from side control, from shoulder pressure. Then you're a boss. You're a boss. You know what I mean? And then you do the submission because some guys just won't tap from pressure. You know, they want to, but they won't. So you gotta bail them out a little bit, right? You know, we all, the 3 of us, had a discussion on your thing. If you can't do it slow, you can't do it.
Yeah, and that was a great word of wisdom that I actually took the class that next day, and I slowed down a lot of stuff and just passing the guard and tried to keep people in my guard. It worked out. I mean, I still got beat a lot, you know, like I said, and that's fully expected.
The times you got beat. Yeah, the times you got beat. Do you know why you got beat?
Yeah, like one of the biggest things I'm noticing is when I have somebody in my guard and I'm trying to scissor sweep them to pass and roll into their mount. One of the blue belts, he was like, you are projecting this so far out.
Oh yeah.
That I know immediately what you're about to do, and so I can
leave, shrimp, knee, right, knee in, knee on the, and yeah, oh yeah. But that comes. You got to do it.
Yep.
It'll come in time, right? So the other key thing is when you didn't get beat. That's kind of passive aggressive, right? But when a person couldn't get out of your guard, do you know why?
I actually haven't had that experience yet.
Fair enough. Fair enough. But my point is this, right? Speed masks a lot of errors. Strength and speed masks a lot of errors, right? So if you can't do something slow, you can't do it. And what I mean by that is, dude, if you go to a roll, right, and you're rolling with another white belt, right, and you do a somersault backflip, land on their back, and put them in a rear naked. You won. Do you feel good? Yeah, sure you do. You feel good, right? Did you do jiu-jitsu? No.
No.
You didn't do jujitsu. Do you know why you won? Do you know why that guy couldn't stop your double, triple Lindy to the back? No, because you don't even know what the hell you did. Right? So it's about training, right? We're all tough guys here, right? We all train in multiple ranges. We all carry guns. We all do this. We all do that. So there's no doubt that we're tough, okay? So when we go train, let's go train for a reason. Could I go out to the range and throw 200 rounds at 7 yards and blow out the 10 ring and and look like a boss? Absolutely. But I don't do that. I do dot torture. You know what I mean? It's the same thing with jiu-jitsu, right? If you don't know how you did something, it's worthless. It's absolutely worthless. It's hard on the ego. It's hard on the chest, But if you go to a class and you get beat, but you get one epiphany on how something works, dude, that's awesome. Versus going to a class and just destroying everybody and you learn nothing.
Yeah.
Jiu-jitsu is too hard to waste your time.
And that's something that anybody that wants to come into jiu-jitsu, they want to start it. There's a couple of things they need to understand right off the bat, and that is if you have an ego, you won't very quickly. Or as we've discussed earlier, it is hard because for your first year minimum, possibly 2 years, you're going to walk into school and pretty much get beat in some form or fashion every day. And it's slow. It really is. Like we were talking before, it takes 10 years on average to become a black belt. That's a huge commitment.
Yep.
Don't forget being sore every single day, too.
Oh, yeah. Oh, without a doubt.
That turns into an addiction, I think, after a while.
If you're not sore,
do it right.
Yeah, if you're not sore, if you don't have bruises, if you don't have calluses and stuff like that, you're doing something wrong. I mean, to this day, I don't know if you guys can see, but you look at my fingers, right? This whole thing, that ain't normal. But that's from grabbing gis and holding on chokes and getting stuff twisted and stuff like that. But it's interesting, these ears, I by far don't have the worst cauliflower ears out there. But another grappler, they know.
Yeah.
They know, and it's a badge of honor. It really, really is. So, what else was I going to add? So that's basically my thing. I went to you always have the people in there, and I'm like the the old uncle, where I train, and Tony knows that I can ratchet down or ratchet up my intensity based on the person, right? So I usually get the new white belts. It doesn't matter if they're the old middle-aged guy trying to get in shape or the brand new, guy who just got out of the army and did combatives, and he's all fired up because he wants his blue belt and he thinks he's going to get it in half an hour. So I'm the guy that trains with them. And what I tell a lot of white belts is, like, look, here's the deal, man. You're all fired up and you're out here to win, and that's awesome, and God bless you and everything, but you're going to burn out super quick. Because here's the bottom line. If you are so awesome that you trained here for a month and did everything right and were a phenom or whatever, and Tony gave you your blue belt in a month, this art sucks. Because it ain't hard, On the other hand, if you realize that and you want to train and commit, it is probably one of the most rewarding sports. The camaraderie, the overall attitude is just it's probably one of the most rewarding things a person can do as far as physical fitness and self-defense.
Yeah, camaraderie is huge. Ben, where you were at, did you, as you joined the gym and everything, was it just kind of like a big welcoming with open arms?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Hey, well, welcome to the place. Here's a straw, suck it up. We're gonna go.
Yeah. Right, and then embrace it.
No, I mean it was. If we were doing anything, if it was sparring or doing takedowns or doing jujitsu or judo or something like that, if you punched a guy in the face like a good clean punch, we'd look at each other and smile. Like, yeah, that was good. Give each other a high five or something like that and go right back at it. Same thing with if we did a good move while we were rolling. If I had somebody in my guard and they were able to pass it, and I'd get, if they'd get into side control, I'd go, that was a good move, dude. There is a camaraderie when you're talking about a martial art in anyone. Jiu-jitsu, I think, is a lot. I don't know how the key stuff is, but I would imagine it seems to be a little tighter knit because if it makes any sense, you are tighter knit.
Yep.
You're not standing there punching the guy and kicking the guy. You're on the ground. You can smell his breath. You got your face in his armpit. You got it in his crotch sometimes, unfortunately. There's a bond that's formed in that's different than I think other martial arts are.
Well, it's the you bleed and sweat together. You know what I mean? It's I was trying to explain it to my wife the other day. Who actually took her first jiu-jitsu lesson the other day, which I'm super proud of. She had done a Spartan race, right?
Yeah.
First time, I mean, she works out like a maniac, but my whole thing was like, honey, you have no practical application for your physical fitness. I mean, you look awesome, but how do you apply any of that? So she's like, oh, F you, I'm going to go do the Spartan race, right? And the level of camaraderie that she had with the people that sweated, bled, and mudded with her, right? That's what the thing is. When you get that close to somebody, right? And I will never say that, even though I'm an Air Force brat, I will never say anything that I know anything about what it's like to be in the military, but which I'm sure is at the next level. But that's the type of camaraderie I think we're talking about. When you can go out and basically war with people on the mat, that's a level of camaraderie that you can't. It's hard to achieve when there is distance involved. You know what I mean? I went to college with that dude. We drank beer. That's awesome. I love him like a brother. Go roll with him. That's like. Then you're close.
You don't have a best friend until you've been farted on in a triangle choke.
Oh, 100%. You laugh at it, right? When you were in high school, you would have punched the dude. Like, what the, It's like, oh, dude, Chipotle? God.
I've actually tapped to that, unfortunately.
That's horrible. That's horrible. That's no bueno.
No, not at all. It's
That's
like,
no
oh,
bueno,
dude. You try to hang on for a minute and then it's over.
How dare the dude actually keep the position, man? My God, that's horrible. But the thing I want to say, to the people watching this podcast, dude, it ain't paintbrushes and butterflies, right? This ain't no Tai Chi class. You know what I mean? Where you're going to come in and you're going to, meditate and flow with the ebb of the earth and stuff like that. It's war. Nobody wants to be tapped. Nobody wants to be smashed. Nobody wants to be swept in front of everybody. Everybody's trying to get to that next level. But when you're mature enough to understand that everyone just wants to get better and get to that next level, that's what kind of sets the camaraderie. But if you're looking in there and you want to do dragon over monkey's moon and have a red sash and kumbaya and throw up namaste and light candles, you're in the wrong place. You were in the wrong place, so.
Yeah.
Like you said before, you have to check that ego at the door because that'll get you hurt more than anything, and you won't learn anything. You have to kind of. It's just like any other type of martial art or any type like you were saying, doing the gun stuff, going out and blowing 200 rounds into the 10 ring at 7 yards. You'll never get any better doing that.
Yep.
Saying, oh, look how awesome I am because, I did this. And it's the same thing with that. If you walk in there with that attitude of, well, I'm not going to get beat because I'm super cool Joe, high school wrestler, sports star, football Johnny Hero guy, you're going to get tore up because you're not
You're going to tell
learn
yourself
from a guy that you might go into the gym and like me, I came in and I was older, and I was in my mid-30s when I started, and there was guys that were younger than me that knew more than me, and it I wouldn't say it was humiliating, but it was kind of humbling. And I go, well, these guys haven't been around as long as me, and they're whipping my butt up and down on the mat and in sparring. So you got to be like a sponge and just say, okay, I don't know anything. Let me absorb all this stuff, and then it'll be better for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so that's the thing, and Kev, you can ask Justin Rader this, right? So he's your classic guy that he was a high-level wrestler, right? And then he got into jiu-jitsu. And the conversation with wrestlers when they first come in is always the same. In that, well, how was that guy? How do you think he's going to be? He's like, well, he's either going to be unbelievable or he's going to get hurt and quit in 6 months, right? Because there's just so much explosion. And I mean, let's, again, I love wrestlers to death. I've loved watching wrestling. I did it for a year in high school, yada, yada. But every sport has a triangle, okay? And the 3 points of that triangle are strength, speed, technique, right? Jiu-jitsu, technique is up here, and strength and speed are down here. With wrestling, it's speed or strength. Whatever one's not on top here, it's over here, and technique is somewhere over. Not that there's not technique in wrestling. Obviously it is, right? But that's why you don't have absolute divisions in wrestling like you do in jiu-jitsu, right? It's because strength is the most important thing you can have in wrestling. Where jiu-jitsu, it's technique, right? So you get the wrestlers in there, and they do awesome, and they will smash you, and they will do pressure, they'll smash your face, and they'll try and do can openers on you, and all this other stuff until they hurt their neck or their back blows out, But you get that guy like Raider who figures it out, right? And they use that explosiveness, that no-quit attitude, that do-it-now attitude that a lot of jiu-jitsu guys miss, that they don't get, that wrestlers get, that judo, because of the rules they get. You do it and you do it now. And you add that to jiu-jitsu technique, and they are unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. So.
Yeah. So one of the things that we've talked about several times is firearms. We've mentioned it here and there on this show. We're all avid firearm carriers in Pro 2A and all that good stuff. What are your guys' thoughts on jiu-jitsu application while armed?
Oh, I got to start with a tough one. Jesus.
we're going to end with a
take that one from Scott, because when we were on another podcast, we had talked after the show about me actually developing a program including that, because as far as I know, there's not a lot of people that are training I just got tackled to the ground from a blindside and I'm armed and this guy's wailing on me. What do I do now? There's a big application in jiu-jitsu when it comes to being an armed citizen. In that exact instance where somebody attacks you and you don't see them until it's too late and they're on top of you, and now you're on the ground. Nobody wants to fight to go to the ground, especially if it's going to be an armed conflict where they've got a knife or something like that, or a wooden baseball bat and they're beating you with it. But you need to know what to do once you get there. Mm-hmm. And I think there's quite a lot of jiu-jitsu techniques that will work very well in getting you to a position where either you can break contact with that person or at least get to a point where you control them enough you can get your firearm out and do what you need to do to end that struggle. So, yeah, yep. I think it's really important. And it's a lot of things that – it's one of the things that I see a lot of people that are self-defense focused around here at least don't have any clue about. They go, oh, well, I carry a gun. so I don't need to know a martial art. Why? Why don't you need to know martial art? You know, if you're putting your groceries in your car, or you're strapping your kid in your car seat, and some thug comes up behind you, yanks you out of the car, and starts beating the hell out of you, what are you going to do? How are you going to get to that gun to use that gun? You know, you got to have something.
And the inverse is true. There's martial artists out there who don't think they need a firearm, and it's funny to ask them questions about how they would apply the two together, you know, or something like that. But I'll get into that too. There are some guys out there that do. I'm not going to call it crossover because, again, like I said before, guys, there's no difference between gi and no gi jiu-jitsu. There's no difference between, you know, certain things. It's self-defense is self-defense. What tools you choose to use are up to you and your enlightenment or your ignorance. You know what I mean? So guys out there that teach it, even though I haven't taken any of their classes, but you know, I've seen some stuff on it that look absolutely outstanding. So you got ShivWorks with the ECQC stuff, right? I think it's Craig Douglas who runs that. He's a jiu-jitsu practitioner along with several other martial arts, and where he runs that force on force, you know, situational thing, 2 guys versus you, 1 guy, 3 guys, you know, and how do you get to your gun? I believe Chuck Haggard may teach it. I'm not sure. I know he's an avid martial artist as well and talks about a lot of that stuff. And then Greg Ellifritz, he does as well, right? He teaches a ground combatives course, and I believe he integrates blue guns in there with that training. But you know, one of the things about martial arts and firearms is look, guys, the body works the way the body works. I don't, you know, one of the things that, you know, when I do private instruction for people that just can't get it, or think they can't get it, it's because they go to the range and they think because they have a gun in their hand that the laws of physics change. You know, the sun rises in the west and they saw Jack Bauer do it, and he looked like he had a stick up his ass, and that's how you're supposed to shoot, you know. And that's probably the biggest thing that helped me with my shooting and my discipline with jiu-jitsu is knowing that you got to train, and you got to drill, and you got to drop the ego, you know, and you got to do it slow to go fast, you know. But so I've trained with a couple of people. My friend, I won't mention his name, but he's part of the mobile security detail for the State Department. So, AKA, he's a face shooter for the State Department, and he's a jiu-jitsu guy. And we practiced with some stuff, and you know what we learned? He carried on his strong side hip, on his right hip. But his half guard, we're going to get a little technical though. So for those people that don't know, full guard is I'm on my back, but my legs are wrapped around your waist, so I'm controlling your center of gravity. Half guard is I only have control of one leg, so it's not the most advantageous, but it's better than nothing, right? So he carried on his right hip, but he liked being in the half guard on the left side. His gun is now pinned. He can't get to it, because his body weight's on it and the dude's body weight is probably on it, regardless if he got the underhook or whatever, right? So he would have to transition to get it out. Well, guess what? He's flat now. The worst place you want to be in half guard, right? So where I carried appendix, doesn't matter which side I go to half guard, my gun's right there, you know? What if you get caught on the other side? You know, and you have to draw. My underhook is here. I'm in half guard. How do I draw? I got to release the underhook to get to my gun. That's not good either, you know, because then I lose position. So you got to work about positions to keep the position to get to your gun. I saw this thing, and I won't mention the person's name, but you know, if I did, everybody would know who the trainer was. There was something. I think it was in. I'm going to say it was in Recoil or you know, a high level, you know, not a high level, but a well-known gun magazine, and they were teaching something where it was basically Dude takes you. You do an arm drag to get to your gun, and then you shoot him. The arm drag was completely wrong, right? The way he was positioned is that he would have, if the guy kind of knew what he was doing, his arm was caught next to his leg, and the other guy's one arm was here and one arm was here. And that looks like a choke to me, you know. And he was completely twisted. His legs were going that way, and his torso was going that way. This is the guy who's doing the self-defense technique. You know what I mean? And it was. I looked at him like, oh my God, that will get you killed in the streets. And it was like a high-level guy that's very well respected, showing this technique. So I think there is absolutely a need from it, a need for it, but one, just like everything else, it needs to be vetted and tested out. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, something that kind of comparing the two in the firearms world, it's very easy to put on a front, to have a persona of, you know, being a Billy badass shooter. You know, you can buy cool tactical gear, you can do some Google searches, and on forums and on the book face and everything, you can sound relatively intelligent, and be able to do everything. You can even post you know, pictures of your targets that, you know, when you went to the range, you put 50 rounds through, you know, blew the bullseye out at 7 meters or 7 yards, but you know, you're telling everybody that you did it at 50. But in jiu-jitsu, and quite possibly in many other martial arts, I mean, I know it's true, definitely jiu-jitsu and judo, you can't lie at all. You know, you can.
Well, you can't lie on the mat. There's plenty of black belts out there.
Good point.
Stealing, you know, again, for lack of a better word, no disrespect for those people that have served, you know, but it's, you know, there's plenty of guys trying to steal that black belt valor and they get caught. But you're right, on the mat, there's no hiding.
Yeah.
There is no hiding. So
and you'll get called out very quickly. There's several videos I've found online of you know, people who they projected themselves to be a jiu-jitsu black belt, trained under a, you know, famous big name in the jiu-jitsu world, and turns out that they just kind of grabbed a belt off of eBay or off of Amazon, and, you know, maybe they watched a couple of shows, you know, YouTube shows or something, or whatever would have you.
Yeah. Well, there's what did he call it? What's an international airline? We'll just call it American Airlines, right? There's the American Airlines black belt, right? Where the dude left Rio de Janeiro as a blue belt, and when he landed in Miami, he was a black belt. You know, the thing with the sport is that it's still relatively so small that lineage can be tracked down almost instantly, right? For example, take my professor, Tony, right? So even though he's under Andre Galvao, it goes Tony Passos, Ricardo de la Riva, Carlson Gracie, Carlos Gracie. Stop. You know, and there's your 100 years of lineage right there. There's not that much, but people still do it.
Yeah.
People still do it, and it amazes me to this day. And they're the ones who don't roll. You know, so. But you know, one of the things I want to add about that, you know, if we can go in about the correlations between, you know, jiu-jitsu and firearms in general, and a lot of martial arts, you know, legitimate combative martial arts, is, again, it teaches you that the body works how the body works, and your best teachers, whether it be jiu-jitsu or firearms, will tell you, when they tell you to do something, they will tell you why you do it that way. Okay? For example, you know, walk up to an instructor and say, so why do I want to stand athletic stance versus strict isosceles versus Weaver, you know, and you'll be amazed, like, well, because that's the way they teach it. Nobody does Weaver anymore. Well, why? I don't know. Line's hot, go, you know, something like that, right? They can't explain. The same thing with Jiu Jitsu, right? So why do I, when I'm shooting for the triangle from guard, why am I putting on the foot on the hip, right? Or why, when I'm passing, I want to put my hand on the outside of the knee of the side I'm passing? Oh, well, just like with the reason why, in my opinion, you want to go with the athletic stance is because then I don't need to change, right? So I'm athletic stance, pistol, shotgun, AR. My feet don't change. Where if I go straight Weaver or isosceles, it has to change if I want to move, okay? With a triangle, you're putting your foot on the hip because as you're shooting, your weight is going down on his hip and they can't move. So while you're shooting, he's stuck. Why do I want to put my hand on the outside of the knee of the side I'm going on a pass? Because that's the way the body works. You can't move that way with your arm like this, but you can move it like this, you know? So whether it be jiu-jitsu or firearms, and people are telling you how to do something, they should be able to tell you why you're doing something, okay? And that's, you know, when I came into firearms, there's plenty of people that have all these things like, you know, you need to put your finger here. No, you need to put your finger here, you know, or here, or, you know, why? What is my finger putting anywhere on the trigger? What does that have to do with anything? You know, well, because it's in relation to the way your hand moves and the sympathetic movement between your finger and the rest of your hand when you're squeezing the thing like you want to crush the gun. You know, how you're built, you need to explore that. Different people are different ways. Find the one that works for you, but that's why finger placement is important on the trigger. Oh, okay. You know, that's the one thing that drives me crazy. Like, where do I put my finger? I don't know. Depends on how you're built. Well, I'm built like a jackass. Where should I put my finger? Anyway, so that's that end drilling. Drill.
That's where it goes.
Yeah, what's that? Yeah, exactly. And the other thing is drill and drill and drill. You know, as you know, Ben, you're an instructor. Kevin, I know you shoot a lot, and people, you know, ask you a lot of questions, stuff like that. How do I get better without shooting? Yeah, you don't. You know, go dry fire. Go put an empty case on the end of your slide and see if it moves. Blah blah blah. Do this. I'm like, dude, go shoot. Get all that stuff. Yes, dry firing is important, just like drilling technique is important. But if you don't roll, who gives a shit? You know,
Right.
if you don't go out and you don't test it on the square range, and then don't test it on a more dynamic range with a vetted instructor, who gives a shit? It's not worth anything. Then it's theory, and it's not practice. You know,
Right. Yeah,
It's not practically tactical.
it's not practically tactical. That's exactly.
Shout out to Nick.
It is not operator as fooey.
No, actually, I just did a weekend here in Alliance, real close to my hometown. It was a
Oh, that's right. I saw the picture, dude. That looks awesome.
Yeah.
How was that, man?
Man, I tell you what, I shot probably less than 150 rounds.
Mm.
And I can tell you right now that you could have run that class, 2-day class, with a stick and gotten just as much out of that class. It was 100% about techniques outside of the actual point of pulling that trigger. And there was a lot of validation of skills that I've taught and things that I've done and learned over the years. And I did learn some stuff. I learned a lot, more so about me, you know, which is kind of what those classes are for.
Oh yeah.
You know, it was it was Sentinel Concepts, Steve Fisher, and he said it's a problem-solving class. It's not a shooting class.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what it was. It was solving problems, and you know, after you solve that problem, here's the answer: a bullet. Or sometimes it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but yeah, that's one of the biggest things I took away from it in that aspect, because this was my first live fire shoot house experience. You know, we've all cleared our guns and gone Jack Bauer through our own house, clearing corners like a boss,
Mm-hmm.
without anybody, that's got the experience to say you did it wrong, you did it right. We don't know. We just practiced our technique. Um, did the first run, and it just felt sloppy, and it did things wrong, and I was like, wow, I don't know what I thought I knew, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And the biggest piece of advice I took away from it was slow down. And then when you think you've slowed down enough, slow down about 50% more. And that can be applied to the martial arts stuff too. Like we were saying before, if you're just going to go in there and go crazy wild caveman and try and smash everything, you're either going to get hurt or you're not going to learn proper technique.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all you gotta walk before you can run. You gotta crawl before you can walk, kind of deal. And it applies to the martial arts and to the firearm stuff. So it was a good class.
Yeah.
Now the problem is I want to do it with Sims now.
Oh, dude, UTMs are where it's at, man. So
Next year.
yeah, I'll tell you about my experience with that in a second. But as mentioned on several of the Practically Tactical podcasts, I'll be training with Steve at Essential Handgun this weekend in West Virginia, and he has promised to make me cry. Which,
Steve's a good dude.
yeah, I am bringing a small flask to save my tears, and I'll wear it around my neck. Anyway,
Steve will drink them for you.
huh?
Steve will
What's that?
drink them.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. So my EC, well, not ECQ, I guess it was, whatever. So the range where I shoot at SEG invited me to a beta class they were having. It's one of those. It was a force-on-force type of street encounters thing. And it was actually done really well. It was a little bit of concealed carry, a little bit of introduction to Krav, and force-on-force training at the end. And I learned some great things, right? So the shooting part, you guys know that even when I compete, I always go concealed, so that was fine. The Krav Maga part, I had trained with Krav Maga, with a couple of Krav Maga guys every here and there. If you've been training in multiple ranges, that's all Krav Maga is. It's a mixture and a system of combining the best of many martial arts and just applying it. So did super well in there, and then we got to the UTM thing. And one of the things that I noticed about myself is what they did is they brought you into a room, and you had a facilitator, right? That basically said, go, right? And that facilitator had an orange vest on, and a paintball mask, just to be safe for identification. And then the guy coming at you, and you had to have your eyes closed. What angles? He was in the full. What do you call it? The full,
The red man suit?
Yeah, exactly. It was full suit, full everything, right? And the premise of what it was is that when you see this dude, he's coming to take your life, right? Engage, separate, draw your weapon, put him down. If you want to and you have an advantage, just say, stay down or I'll shoot. Who the hell wants to do that, right? Anyway, so what I learned about the guy, so you went through 3 different scenarios, right? First scenario was great. Dude came at me, front kick cleared, put him down, right? Second one, he was super close. He was on me, palm strikes to keep him off, and then he backed up and just looked at me. And you know what I did? Nothing. Because he disengaged.
Yeah.
Through my training, right, I can be as aggressive as I want to as long as you're being aggressive, right? But when the premise was, this dude's coming to take your life, who gives a shit if he stops? So when I cleared him and he stopped, I should have drawn down and burned him down, or at least drew and said, stop or I'll shoot, right? I froze. I didn't freeze. I was waiting for him to do something, which was wrong. And then the third one was even more awesome. So you guys all know that I'm the dude with all the red dots, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's faster. But part of it was that we're Silver Eagle, and the way the lighting is set up from the range and from back, when it hits the stall or the lane or whatever, it has competing light. So, you don't have a clear front sight, you've got blur, right? Because the way the light competes. So I thought my eyes were shit. So that's why I got into red dots. But it was interesting. So it was dimly lit, but there was still even light. So the facilitator, right, he goes, go, and you open up, he doesn't have the orange vest on, and he's coming at you with a blue knife, right? And before you even have time to engage him, he backs off, and the other guy comes at you. Okay? So remember, this is a beta class. They haven't run these before. I'm the first guy running it in the UTM rounds, and we're shooting with UTMs, right? So the guy comes at me, boom, actually, what did I do? He comes at me, couple palm strikes, arm drag, shoot him in the back of the head. It was pretty fucking cool, right? And then I'm turning around, and the guy, the facilitator, right, is just standing there with the blue knife in his hand. So I shot him. And he goes, what are you doing? And I'm like, dude, you don't have the orange vest on, and you're standing there with a blue knife. This dude tried to kill me. You got a weapon. I just shot you. In, center mass. And he was the guy, he actually runs, he's like the general manager or, co-owner there. And he always makes fun of me that I can't shoot without red dot sights, right? So this was a Glock 19 UTM gun, crappy Glock iron sights, and he was, 20 feet away. I saw my sights and I burned him down. I said, oh, by the way, I saw my sights, brother. And then he showed me the thing later on, dude. He had like 3 UTM rounds right here. It was awesome. So anyway, I learned that about myself. So those are great, man. You got to be put in the crucible.
Yeah.
Right? You got to go through the gauntlet. Otherwise, you don't know. You still don't know. You just really still don't know. But that's about as close as you're going to get to it in a safe environment. So.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you that with so I've been through multiple training, UTM, live fire, blue guns, combatives. I've gone downrange. I've had hard, close engagements, and I've fought with the best of them. I've come back. I've gone through more training, and even to this day, it's kind of one of those things where it's like you don't. It's a feeling of confidence in terms of, yeah, I'm fairly confident that if something goes down, if something happens, I'd probably be pretty good. But in the end of the day, you really don't know. Even after being tested, you still don't have that 1,000% confidence. And from the guys I've talked to, that seems to be kind of a normal thing. It's, you have to constantly put yourself into that crucible to maintain being on that knife's edge of readiness. And the longer you go without training, the further back off that knife's edge you become. One of the biggest things I've noticed in just the time of Jiu Jitsu is one of the things that I lost. I didn't even realize I lost it. Was the sharpness of having a warrior's mindset, and it was actually kind of surreal that I sat there and I was like, I can't believe I've lost this. I've gone through training. I've been through all this stuff. I was an instructor for guys going downrange. I was that knife's edge for the longest time. How did I lose this? So it's just one of those things. You have to constantly test yourself. You have to constantly be in training. You have to be drilling. You have to slow down when you're going through things so that you know you're doing things the right way. Because when it actually happens, everything's going on. I mean, you're going 1,000 miles a minute kind of deal. But for me, one of the things that I learned in training, and it proved to be true in real life, things slow down. Other guys I've talked to, they were like, no, things were happening so fast I feel like I couldn't even breathe fast enough to stay alive. It happens. You have different physiological effects that happen to you in various stressful situations. You don't know how that's going to happen until you put yourself through some sort of test.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it's different things for different people. That's the one thing, like the time space thing, right? Ben, when you were in the shoot house there, did time speed up or did it slow down?
It slowed down.
Yeah, it slows down for me too.
When during my runs, I didn't ask anybody to time it or anything like that, but most of the runs, when we did the full, we had 3 rooms in a hallway that we used, and when we did the full runs with 2 rooms, the hallway, and then the 3rd room, most people's runs didn't last over a minute, 25 ish. Just kind of a rough estimate in my head. But when you're in there actually doing it, you're like, oh shit, I've been in here for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And the one run we had, there was the world's best hide and seek champion in there, and that was the one it felt like it took the longest, and to be thorough, search the whole house and everything like that for a threat target, and you're like, man, I gotta find this guy, but it really didn't take that much time. It does slow way down, and I would imagine that when you've actually got UTM rounds or in being downrange situation where there's live rounds coming back at you, that it would be even worse. Time would slow down more, and it's a weird thing about human physiology and our brains that it's able to do that. It's kind of strange, but cool at the same time.
Yeah, it's super interesting. Like, so if you guys go to my YouTube channel, Modern Samurai Project, from that time I competed on my 42nd or 43rd birthday, you'll see a match there. I'm going against a guy, for description purposes, a black guy, and I think so. A blue belt match is 5 minutes. I think I tapped him in like 3 minutes, but if you were to ask me after the match, I would have told you. I was like, oh my god, was it like 15 minutes?
Right.
It just takes forever. And then you watch the video and you're like, oh, yeah, that wasn't much at all. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's hyper interesting. Things get bigger for me too. I don't know about you guys, but like sights, I'm like, okay, there's that shitty Glock sight. God, that's dude. When I was in the UTM class, man, that thing was like as big as a saucer. It was strange. It lined right up, and I was like, oh, I'm shooting this dude. Da da da. It was awesome.
Nice. How did the tactical pauses feel for you going through the shoot house? And the reason I asked is so the guy I was partnered with the last time I went through a UTM shoot house, he was an old school Iraq guy. And I say old school. He was one of the first or second wave dudes that went in, and he had actually been shot, and what had happened was he made a tactical decision when clearing a room of between a bed and a closet, and he chose to clear the closet first as opposed to the bed, and he was shot from under the bed. So we came into this room and we have the tactical decision. We have a closet, we have a bed. Which one do we do? And he went straight for the bed, but it was that momentary pause of sitting there and just you're scanning and you're looking at everything and you're trying to have your tactical hierarchy of what do I do first? And I tell you, that felt like just 10 minutes in and of itself, and in reality, it's just, for me, it was just seconds.
Right. I had kind of a plan, as it were, if there's such a thing when it comes to, a situation like that, just from practicing in my house. Anytime there was a doorway, when I'd pie that doorway to see that center of that room, and once I got to the point where I only had the fatal corners left, I always went to look at the corner to my right first, since I'm left-handed, because naturally my body will, if we can see this here, if I've got my gun up here in a high compress ready, and I'm left-handed, if I turn this way, I've naturally got my strong side hand kind of already putting that gun right there. So, and if I extend out, I'm right there. So I always went, when I came to a doorway, I always went to the right first, because I knew I'd be quicker to do that. And then I would come back into that doorway, you know, real quick, and then press out into the other side, because that was the slower side for me. And if there was, you know, in a real world situation, if there was two guys hiding in the corner, I want to be as fast as I can to shoot one of them at least. You know, I want to go to the faster side. So, yeah, the tactical pauses was interesting. I did see a lot of people kind of stop at the doorway and then go, trying to get their brain to click in which way they're going to go first, you know. And that was more so towards the beginning of the class. You know, once we started getting in there, I think we did, including the night runs, I think we did 9 runs the first day and 6 the second day. Yeah, if I remember correctly. It's all kind of a blur to me. But for a 2-day shoot house, from what I understand, that's a pretty decent amount of runs.
Yeah.
For a somewhat entry level shoot house class. So, and I did see a lot of people go from that, I don't know what I'm going to do coming through this doorway, into the okay, set plan thing. So yeah, it was fun. I got to do it with UTMs though. I have to.
And reverting back to Jiu Jitsu, right, guys?
Mm-hmm.
You have those guys who just kill it on the mat in the school, right? And then they go out to competition and they freeze, right? Because of that tactical pause. Oh crap! It means something now. Let me think exactly what I'm going. Oh crap! I just got taken down. Oh crap! He just passed. Oh crap! He's on my back.
Oh, I'm tapped.
And I'm tapped. Oh,
that's great to hear. That's super great to hear, because I'm looking at possibly doing a competition in December if I'm ready. And I've had that same thought of like, so here in the gym, I've gotten a chance to go against several other people, or several people several times. Whereas you go to the competition and you have that switch where it's like, all right, I've never gone against this guy. What is he going to go for? How's this going to happen?
That's how you lose, though. Because when you start thinking too much, have your strategy, know what your strong points are. If it doesn't work, who gives a shit? You're a white belt, right?
Right.
Yeah. Just go. I mean, that was my whole thing. For the longest time, I would enter 3 divisions. I would enter adult, masters, and absolute, because I always lost my first match, and then I would win the other divisions. It was just a mental block in my head. I just could never win my first match until I didn't give a shit anymore, and then I won my first match. You know what I mean? So, talking about tactical pauses, we were talking about speed and different things of that. The guy who is the fastest, who looks like he's the most efficient, knows what he is going to do before you do, whether it's in jiu-jitsu or having a plan, right? I am sure, I've shot with Steve once, but this was at a charity event, so I don't know how he moves. I am more than sure that he does not move like a gazelle if he was doing a sprint. He's a big dude, right? I'm a big guy, right? But you watched him go to that shoot house, and it was like butter, I bet, right? Because he knew exactly what to do. He had the plan, okay? It's the same thing when you're rolling with somebody that's a higher belt, all the way through black belt. You're like, oh my God, that dude was like a hurricane going. You're out of breath. Your lungs are crushed. You're sweating like a rainforest. And he's, tying his belt back on like he just ate a sandwich. It's because he's 3 to 4 steps ahead of you, right? And it's almost every belt you get that many more steps in front of the guy you're rolling with, right? That's why the same instructor can roll with another black belt, and they're both going crazy. Well, not crazy, but they're both, sweating up a storm and breathing hard and things of that nature because they're not ahead of the guy. It's the same thing in shooting, or any or self-defense thing. The guy, especially with humans, right? Humans are the only animal on the face of the planet that under times of stress, they stop breathing. And that's what makes it so stressful. People just, I'm nervous.
Yep.
It's a jiu-jitsu match. Let's go. I'm going to a shoot house. I'm going to, I'm going to, slice the pie. Oh my God, why am I so tired? No oxygen in the brain, dumbass. And we all do it.
Yeah.
We all do it, so.
Yeah, we saw that in the shoot house this past weekend too. People forget to breathe.
Yep, they forget to breathe.
The saying all day long was, "There's nothing in there that's going to kill you. So why are you nervous about it?" And people.
I don't know why I'm not nervous. Yeah, I don't know why I should
exactly.
Not be nervous.
Yeah. But like Scott's saying, if you're going into any competition of any sort, you have that plan and you try to stick to it as much as you possibly can, and hope that your plan is better than the other guy's plan. And that's why if you look at the professional face shooters and their techniques for clearing rooms and stuff like that, every guy knows what he's supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If there's a 4-man team or a 10-man team, each one of those guys has a little bitty piece of that pie, of that room, that he has to move in and own. And the same thing would apply, to doing the competitions for the martial arts. You gotta know where you're strong at, where you're weak at, and play to your strengths. And hopefully the other guy can't expose your weaknesses too much. So,
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly it. With you watch. There was some show on the outdoor thing with it was like a tactical team competition sponsored by Sig Sauer, and you had some of those guys.
Yeah.
I mean, it looked like synchronized swimming, when they were going in and clearing stuff like that, because they have drilled it a million times, right? You have black belts, or have other people who walk in up to black belts, and they'll go against the people that are supposed to be their same level. They walk in and do the flying triangle, the flying arm bar, or something like that, and it works, and you're like, how in the hell did that jackass fall for that? Because the dude had the plan, and the other guy hesitated, and it worked, So drill, and then drill some more.
Yep, absolutely.
Like when I was doing the martial arts thing, I found out that I am horrible at takedowns. If I got one, it was and executed it, it was either luck or just.
You didn't even know you were doing a takedown.
or just sheer weight that I pressed into the guy and he just fell over because physics. So my plan always was, if we were starting, even if we were going full spar with gloves and takedowns and stuff like that, or we were just doing takedown stuff, I would wait for him to execute a takedown, because I'm much better at defending a takedown, and I'm much better that once I'm on my back, that I'd be able to work from there. I never had a wrestling background or anything like that, so they loved me because I was a blank slate. So I was the guy who said, "Yeah, I want to be on my back," because that's where jiu-jitsu happens, is on your back.
Yeah.
So that was so like I said, I was looking for, and that guy go to shoot, and I'm like, yeah. I got it now.
Yeah, right. I'm much the same way, because when I went back to jiu-jitsu, my knees were already pretty bad, right? So I was a guard player, because I can't explode to a different level to do the takedown, right? Mm-hmm. And even being at that time, being in a top position where my knees were in constant contact with the ground, it hurt. So I became a guard player. You want to throw a big dude off, right? Square up and aggressively pull guard, because they're like you. They're ready to either shoot or they're ready for me to shoot. I can't tell you how many times I've come up, right, grabbed a collar, hopped guard, and went straight into the arm bar, and the guy was like, wasn't expecting that.
I've done it. Yeah, that was one of my favorite things is get a guy that would want to lock up like a Muay Thai clinch or something like that.
Mhm.
I just jump guard on him and he's like, oh, now I've got a 200-pound guy hanging off of me.
Yeah.
Bam, we're on the ground all of a sudden. Now I'm where I want to be.
Right.
So,
Yep.
it's
Yep.
fun.
Well, guys, we've been talking for, gosh, I think like 2 hours or so. So we only have 6 more hours to go.
Yeah. There it is. Let's pull that content.
So kind of wrap it up. Ben, I'll let you start. Is there anything that you want to talk to? I mean, I don't have a huge audience or listening base, but if there's anything you want to talk about or plug or anything like that, you're more than welcome to.
Actually, I can cross plug another podcast. I'm going to be on Practically Tactical. Should be tomorrow night. We're going to do an AAR for that shoot house course this weekend.
Oh, awesome.
So you guys
I will be trolling presently.
Yes. Ban hammers.
Yes.
I'll be doing that. It should be tomorrow night. Be a good time. We're going to break it down pretty good, I think. I've got a class next month on the 12th and 13th, hosting MDFI for the Foundation Handgun, and then when things go bad, up at Southington Hunt Club up here in Northeast Ohio.
Nice.
That'll be a good time too. I'm looking forward to doing that. I got some of my classes rolling around. I got a little scheduling break going on right now, but I'll have some more up there. All right, if I plug the Facebook page.
Absolutely.
It's Facebook. Search for Hardline Tactical Training. List all my classes on there. There's links to the MDFI thing in there as well if anybody's interested. If they're in the area and want to come down, or even if you're not in the area, should be. Southington's a great facility, and I've heard nothing but good things about MDFI. So I'm looking forward to having those guys over here, and hopefully have them back after this class as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll make sure to put Nick's Practically Tactical podcast or YouTube channel on there. I'll probably put MDFI's website on the description. I'll put your Facebook on there as well.
Right.
So folks have all the links when they watch this and see this. So cool. Scott.
All right. So what am I doing? So I'll get all the plugs out of the way first. So the name of the Facebook page and the YouTube channel is Modern Samurai Project, where I talk about all things self-defense. By default, by bias or whatnot, they concentrate really on Jiu Jitsu and firearms training. But you'll occasionally see things there on the YouTube channel, which I cross-link. Just various types of things that I'm training on, trying to get better at. And the occasional comedy. I don't know if you guys watch those videos, but
I did.
I am, I think I'm a funny guy, or at least I have fun trying to be funny, and I think I have, sometimes I have unique, smart-ass insights to things, so I just decided to put them on video. The one there's two I'm very proud of is, definitions in firearms training. Right, where we assume everybody knows what those definitions are until you go to an indoor range and nobody knows what the hell the RSO just said. My whole thing is nobody knows what downrange is. Nobody knows what 12 o'clock is. What's that do what 6 o'clock is? He's going to go dinner time. And then I went out and did a handgun one. Aaron Brumley that I was on. The EDC 1, or EDC 1 or 2, I don't know, or class, or podcast that Nick did, and he was on there. So I'm traveling to Charlotte a lot. I just got promoted my job, so I'm going back and forth between Northern Virginia and Charlotte a lot. So he had a class, and I came out and I shot it, half of it. I helped out teach part of it and everything. That was a blast. And so what came of that is the outtakes, which was gunfighting and comedy. They do coexist. You know what I mean? So some of my jokes there. This weekend I will be in West Virginia at the Sentinel Concepts Essential Handgun class. Really excited about that. I've got like 2 or 3 friends coming out to that. Not me, I didn't bring them, but they're coming out too. So that'd be a great class. It'd be good to see Yeti again. It will be good to see him make me cry. Looking forward to that because I'm really excited about it because the people that are coming are pretty, trained enthusiasts, and I think the pace will be a lot faster than maybe what that class it usually is. So again, I'm just making forward to him breaking me and all the stuff that I learned from there. What else can I plug? Modern American Shooters Forum on Facebook, primary and secondary, and novice secondary. Great sources of good information where the mods, myself being one of them, are active and the derp is quashed or deleted very quickly. So come out and learn there. Want to plug Tony Passos, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in Sterling, Virginia, and the place Great Grappling, Jeremy Errol here in Fort Mill, South Carolina, where I train while I'm traveling. Yeah, that's about it, man. I'll just end with my plug. Be good, stay safe, and get training.
Very nice. Very nice.
We can't go without ending the podcast with a us.
So, for anybody that sees this, watches this, or hears this, this has been kind of a show in the making. When I first started jiu-jitsu, like I said, just over a month ago, I started thinking about this concept of doing this show. For those of us that actually watched the show, I apologize for not being computer savvy enough to be able to make the main person who's talking pop up on the screen. Unfortunately, everyone's had a great look at my shiny bald head. But
It's good.
Hey.
We can see me.
So I want to thank you guys both for for taking time and coming on here and just having a fun discussion. This is the first show I've ever done like this, and I think it was pretty good. I think it was fun. Talked about some neat stuff, and who knows, might do another one later on.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having me on.
Yep.
Appreciate
Good
it.
times.
Always.
All right, everyone. Well, thanks for watching, and I'm just going to kind of echo what everyone's been saying is train often, train safely, and be ready. Take care.